Welcome to the Santa Anita Pick 5 preview show, our weekly show. Gino, this week it's just you and I, buddy.
Oh, love it, Chappie. No worries. We're going to talk about the pick 5, and then we'll also talk about a couple races at Golden Gate because we're already talking about the pick 5, so we might as well talk about the Golden Hour pick 4 as well. So we can just talk about a few extra at Golden Gate, have a couple wagers to discuss. I'm excited because I just got a text alert that reminded me about the Pick'em contests that are back this weekend. Those pick'em.santanita.com prop contests that combine the races this weekend and all the props. So whoever put those text alerts out, I think the only thing that would make them even better is if we put your face on them instead, right? That'll get people to really take a look if we get Chappie's beautiful mug right there. So don't forget about those, folks. They're free, and that's the best way to build a bankroll. You can take a shot at something for free every single time. If you're dead last, if you lose, it's not going to hurt you. But if you win, $500 to the winner each and every Saturday, Sunday.
That's right. And like you said, we sent out the first time we're trying out this the text alerts. So the Saturday and the Sunday pick'ems are now live, so you can go in there and play them both and try to mix it up a little bit with the NBA playoffs. I know you're very excited with the Lakers.
I got my Laker lovers shirt on here. NHL in the mix there too, baseball going on, and then a lot of racing at Santa Anita. So it's one of those fun, busy times, and we're only 2 weeks away from the Kentucky Derby.
Crazy, huh?
Right now, It'll be Oaks night. Leading Oaks will have just happened, and will be the night before the Kentucky Derby 2 weeks from now.
Yeah, and we would definitely have a preview for the Kentucky Derby. And normally, we were just talking about all the sports seminar. Skip is usually joining us, plus maybe another. But Skip is already down
on assignment.
Yeah, he's on assignment,
right?
At the Kings game.
Yes.
Yeah. He's very excited. So
reporting back early tomorrow morning on the radio show with you. What time right. And where can we find that? Anyone that wants a little help getting ready for the races tomorrow?
Yep, am830.net or on your AM dial, AM830, and then TML AM830 on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook Live all at once. So looking forward to a big weekend, and tomorrow there's good racing all over the country. Like you said, Gino, we're just going to be touching base on the Santa Anita late pick 5, and then for good measure throwing in the last 2 at Golden Gate so we can round out the Golden Hour pick 4 that's back and better than ever.
Oh yeah, so lots of opportunities, and trying to pad the bankroll right now, and it's nice because it even just off for 1 week, it feels like we haven't had racing here in forever. So excited that we were back running today and that we have a nice card and some good opportunities in the late pick 5. So we'll sink our teeth into it, Chappie.
Let's kick it off with I think is a very difficult race. I'm going to be interested to get your opinion here. Only a 7-horse field, but pretty tough from top to bottom. That would be race 6 at Santa Anita. We're going down the hill at 6.5 furlongs, Gino. And I could make a good case for 4 of them here. I watched some of the replays, Gino. I'm not going to, as far as prices here, I'm 1, 2, 3, 7. On Unbridled Mary on the rail, if you go back and watch that race 2 back, closed very well into Tom's Beauty at a price. Now third off the layoff for John Sadler. We don't always love that rail draw, but I think this horse is a must use in there.
Like Unbridled Mary ran better if you're watching the race than Pammy's Ready did. But I feel like I like Pammy's Ready more. I think with the draw and then like second start back, it wasn't like it was a bad trip because Pammy's Ready was kind of right there in contention, but it was weird. It was this small field where they were sort of all trying to jockey for position early, and it was just kind of a weird run race down the hill. I think this one with the outside draw, I think she'll be able to settle a little bit from out there, just a little bit more. So I like her. The one that you didn't mention is the 5 the fastest. And that, so to me, I'll probably have her on the ticket because turf-wise, she doesn't have a whole bunch of direct turf pedigree, but the turf is fine. But the type of horses like this, if she can get the lead on the slight cutback, she might be tough to pass after having just won at 7 furlongs.
Right. Here was my thought on this, and see what you think on my thinking here. Because D'Amato has two, and Jessica Pfeiffer is up on the 6, who has shown significant speed in the past. I gotta figure that horse is sending
in there to
right.
try to keep it honest.
Correct. That was my assessment of the race pace wise. Otherwise, you're absolutely right. When I first looked, I'm like, okay, the 5 could be low in speed, has never tried the turf, but there's no reason this horse won't like the turf, has talent, and could be long gone. Then I thought, well, maybe the 6 keeps that horse honest. If he happens to scratch that horse, then it's a whole different ball game for me, buddy.
Yeah, and because you're talking about Kitty Katana as the other one, and if you're looking at Kitty Katana's recent form, does have 4 works since being pulled up last time out, so that's a positive. But as far as the running style at this trip, she's going to want to target, right? Cutting back, she's not going to be showing as much early speed like she has in some of her route races. So you're absolutely right. That could be at least a game plan if you train both of those horses and it's not even necessarily setting up, because sometimes it sounds bad when you think about it that way or when you say it that way, right? Like, are they setting it up for another horse? Because sometimes you have different owners, different everything, right? But if you're doing it when it's giving 2 different horses their best chance to win equally, then you absolutely want to do that as well. You want to make sure that this horse is much more forwardly placed. At the very least, keep Princess Aldi honest, and let's make sure Kitty Katana is more tracking in this race. That feels like what they'd want to do.
Yeah, and I think Rakasa, who hasn't raced since last July, is going to be fresh. And it's kind of crazy looking at Rakasa. That horse actually loves the Santa Anita turf course. It's been a long time since she's been here, but she back in the day, back in 2021, now we're talking, had some serious talent in for the tag, but it's 80. So, this race is not easy.
No,
was what we're saying to start off the sequence.
No, and if you take a glance, like the next race we're moving to, it is not easy either. And it's a lower level maiden race, right? So it's not stakes caliber, but it's difficult. It really is. And I think it's kind of fun because of that. You want to move to the 7th race?
Let's do it. Yep. Yeah, because I can't wait to hear what you have to say here. I mean, there's a bunch of horses that are proven that can't win. And then you've got a horse. What do you do with the horse of the 8 who's ran against winners the last 2 times out? That looks like your eyes go directly to that horse. What are your thoughts here?
And it's hard because the only time that she was in a dirt sprint, she had a brutal trip. She was down on the inside, kind of in a slow start. She clipped heels, and it was like no shot. So we can't really use that as a gauge to see, was she good or bad on the dirt sprinting? We don't know. Just to put a line right through it. There are 2 price horses that I think will for sure be on some of my exotics in this race. The first one is the 5, Tenacious Lady. So we go through her form. She's raced 5 times, debuted against Tougher on the turf, comes back in her second start in a maiden claimer at Churchill. It runs pretty well. Finishes 3rd in a field of 11 that day. No problem with that effort. Then comes right back at Del Mar a couple months later, and she didn't run poorly that day either. She finished 4th after a little bit slow. She was in some traffic trouble, and she got bet. She was favored in that race against maiden 30 claimers. So those 2 races, look at her running style in those races, sprinting. She's not that far out of it. Yeah. Honestly, she's got a little bit more positional speed than it may look like if you're just looking at her last 2. The concern is it's now been 3 times in a row where she's had a little bit of gait issues. So is that becoming a habit with her? But it's going to be built into the price. Now, she's a big price. We're not talking about a short price who has a bunch of trouble at the gate. If she can get out of the gate like we've seen her do multiple times and just sit in a good spot, she's going to go 3rd start off the bench now. So she'll be probably set for the best of the form cycle right now. She's getting to the career low. She'll take another drop down. She's at the maiden 20 level. And I think she's a little intriguing in here. The other one would just be the straight speed of the 3, who puts the blinkers on and is just going to go. Another horse who 3 starts back was competitive at Churchill Downs, you know, against maiden 30 and maiden 20 claimers. And I just hope they send hard. Blinks on, second start off the long layoff, should be a little more fit. Those are the two kind of fun price horses that I will try to use, because either one of them winning would be really fun in a pick 5 or a pick 4. This starts your late pick 4 also. The two to me, Chappie, you look at Sadler, and when you look at his numbers with first-time starters, last 5 years, 23 for 156, like solid. But the last 1 year, 0 for the last 17 and 2 for the last 32. One of those things where it's just maybe a bad stretch, because there have been a couple horses that, you know, you win 2 or 3, and then all of a sudden those numbers quickly look a little bit different. But just something to point out that they haven't been as good with first-time starters. This horse's Dam did win her debut. She actually won her first 3 starts. I think she was 3 of 4 with a second in her career. This is the first foal that she's produced. Those 3 will probably be on ones I build around, but like, what makes this race so tough, I could absolutely see the 2 outside horses winning. Wouldn't shock me at all. I just probably like a couple of the other prices a little bit better, doing a little archaeology with them. But I mean, the 8 has been facing legitimate winners in the last couple and was facing much tougher maidens before. Sapodilla, like the races 2 and 3 back, if she just repeats those, that might win this. She's not a fun horse to play because she's 0 for 11 with a couple seconds and a couple thirds, but she has races that are definitely good enough to win this race if she just shows right back up with them. Really tough, really contentious race, but 5-3, those are the fun price horses for me in here.
Yeah, a couple things about this race, and then we'll move on. Is, like you said, basically the 1 and the 7, I have trouble, and they're going to beat a field at some point, but I have trouble when a horse has had so many chances, especially like the 1 at the maiden 20 level several times. You know, your 5 is dropping, has never gone this low. Even the 3 faced maiden 20, a couple times, last time here for the first time, and that was off of almost a year layoff. So there's some excuses there. I will tell you one thing about the 2. Had one work here local on April 13th. The rest were at Los Al, and that work is on XBTV, and it's nothing to shake a stick at. Now, granted, there isn't much to beat in here, and JJ Hernandez does end up there. So, but I just put with a line under it. So tough sequence the first 2 legs to start off with. And to be honest with you, Gino, I can't wait to hear what you have to say in race 8, because I don't think it gets any easier. We're going 6.5 on the flat turf, not down the hill here in race 8. And boy, I think we're running into even more difficulty, unless you think maybe the 3 can shake loose early.
Well, that's what's hard for me about this race, is that I don't think, and this is not a smart way to wager consistently, but I don't really ever do this, especially in sequences. So if I do this once or twice, it doesn't really impact my tickets very much. There's 3 horses that I have a tough time getting around, just sort of seeing the way the race shapes up, and they're probably going to be the top 3 betting choices. That's what's difficult for me. Is like I couldn't get to some of the bigger prices in here, but I had a tough time eliminating any of the 3, 6, or 9.
Yeah,
and that's what's hard, because the 3 puts 2 together, absolutely could be long gone in here. The speed of the speed, and overall, this horse's form is really good when you just go race by race. And then you've got Real Fire, who seemed like they kind of found a nice little niche for Real Fire, sprinting on the turf. Then they stretched out last time and showed a little bit more speed, but just didn't really fire in the first start against winners, found a mile too far. Now you cut back. I think right up the alley for Real Fire. Then you have Cornelia Fort, who missed the break last time out in the first start for Sadler, was last of 6, was about 4 lengths off, did make up ground on the inside. The winner that day won gate to wire, and she's going to try the turf for the first time. She is beautifully bred for the turf. You see the unusual heat on the top, but the Dam in particular, an unusual group, was a 9-time turf winner. And this is the first foal that she's produced. So to me, I had really strong cases for those 3. they're not really going to separate from each other a whole lot as far as price is concerned, right? They're
Right.
probably all in like the 5-2, 4-1 range. So I love getting creative. I had a tough time in here taking a stand and getting away from any of those. So unfortunately, I'll probably just be using 3, 6, and 9. Could you get any prices? Could you get to anyone else here?
Nah, not too much. I mean, I'm kind of with you. I gave the two good Buju a little bit of a look there, who's had some trouble.
Yep.
You know, Mullins is really firing at a good clip. This horse is cutting back in distance.
And
I think
has a little bit more speed than it may
yeah,
look too, right? Because 2
yeah,
starts back at this had some trouble early. Last time out was going a little bit longer, but I think down inside, if they can at least get a little, not on the lead speed, but just closer up, right? Sitting fourth or so, get a little better position. Yeah, I
those would
wouldn't
be
talk
my
you off
four.
that one
Yeah.
if you're looking for a price here.
Interestingly enough, Cornelia Fort is actually the horse who worked with Gray Magic on the 13th, and I mean, and absolutely. It's funny when we always talk about times, right?
Mhm.
April 13th, it says 1:02, and Gray Magic was a 101 flat, which isn't Cornelia Ford outworks that horse by 20 lengths if you watch it closely enough, even though it doesn't show it on paper. But and I think, like you said, broke it from the one hole, then the two hole, now goes outside, bred up and down for turf. So I
Mhm.
think that
And
I'm
just
really leaning towards that horse, to be honest with you.
and like the way she's run, I know she's got a little speed, but just sort of watching her, I think going a little longer like this should be fine. Like she seems like I think she'll have a little better a little better turn of foot, just kind of keep up a
Yeah.
little bit better when they're going a little longer here too. So Cornelia Fort, one that we're definitely high on because the
The
next
only
race become oh go ahead, go ahead.
the only other thing I was going to say is the only other horse that I gave a look at, and we're not trying to get too deep, Paleo's Princess, who's third off the lay, the other Mullins. And if you notice, Ramon Vasquez rode both the last time and stays on the 4 rather than the 2, which I think is a little bit interesting there at 10-1.
Yeah, and if she and that's the thing, if she is around 10-1, I think she'll get bet a little bit, but
Yeah,
she again, at that price, I wouldn't talk you off. I like in watching her races, I felt like I wanted to like her more than I did. Like I was looking at her in this race trying to make her the price horse for me.
right.
And I couldn't quite get there myself, you know. So
Yeah. Well, that's no, that's good to know, because to be honest with you, you and I watch as many replays as we can, and sometimes work gets in the way. And
yeah.
I'm like you, I have to be visually impressed. I did not get around to watching those races, so that helps me a little bit more uh,
And I think
from
she
what
like
you say.
6.5 is it's not like she can't win at this. I think 6 might be better even for her. Also, with sort of her running style, sort of close up like that too. She could be set for another nice effort, third off the bench. She doesn't really. I don't know if we've seen her peak quite yet. It seems like she's had a couple opportunities to maybe take a step forward. So again, I'm putting some knocks on her, but if you're looking for a price in the race, I'm not going to ever talk you off putting in
Yeah,
a 10-1 shot like this in a race, especially where I'm using a lot shorter prices.
right. All right, we'll move on to the race 9, the Californian Grade 2. A couple things about this race. First of all, when you watch Defunded, we've been fooled by Defunded so many times, yet this is obviously a much easier spot.
Yeah,
And the XBTV really doesn't matter because Defunded always works like a superstar in the morning. I think this is a really good spot for
it
Defunded.
is. It's
Um,
like because the biggest problem for me in this race, who else do you go to at a price that seems fair? Because
nah, yeah,
Parnelli is at 4-1 or Royal Ship at 3-1.
yeah,
Like that's the alternative here to Defunded. I mean, I can't get myself again. I wanted to try to get to Kiska Day Goodbye. I was trying to get there just in this race because I was going process of elimination. I started eliminating horses. I like the fact that Kiss Today Goodbye has a race or two that are right there with Defunded's races,
yeah.
but they're a while ago. And
Yeah.
I don't think he's going to get the circumstances he would need in this race. And he's just not been in good form. I mean, we're not even just looking and saying like 4 or 5 races ago. We're talking about November of 2021
Right.
for a
Yeah.
good effort from him.
Yeah.
And like that was against Azul Coast, right? Like how good even was that race? Mr. Like talking through them all, Mr. Impossible. I think he's a nice horse, but this would by far have to be his career effort, by far, to compete with Defunded. And then you have like Parnelli, who his last 3 races, they're all followed by layoffs. He's
Yeah.
not even coming into this race like in really good current form with a bunch of recency where he's fit, and maybe that's the advantage that he has over Defunded. He doesn't have a tactical advantage over Defunded. Defunded's faster than him. He'll probably sit second or third in here. And then Royal Ship, could he beat Defunded? Absolutely.
Yeah.
I mean, I played him and made, I think, a really big case for him in both of his last 2. Tried to get him in both. He just hasn't fired. And now we're going to have to take 3-1-ish on him as like the strong second choice in this race. As crazy as it sounds with Defunded, you have probably the fastest. Maybe you have a horse like Midnight Mammoth, who's like a really quick horse. They try to go out there and maybe Defunded sits right behind them, right? I could see that happening. But you have Defunded as like, I'd say the best speed, who can also sit off, and he's by far the classiest.
Yeah.
I hate having to do this when you talk a race out, but nobody feels like their price is what it should be if they were to win this race. Like that's the problem.
I'm with you. The only scenario, and we visually, the work on April 10th for Parnelli was terrific. And actually the work on April 15th for Royal Ship was very nice. So they both look like they're coming into the race very well. The only scenario I can see is if Midnight Mammoth and Defunded just go ding dong battle from the start in one of those. But I think Defunded is just in a great spot.
Yeah, and could he lose? Absolutely. Right? He's not like an unbelievably overwhelming, never lose type of horse.
Flight line.
But my issue is just who at the price feels like that's the good bet in this race.
Yeah.
Most races I handicap, you can find 2 or 3 horses who you feel like, well, you know what, maybe they don't win, but at that price, like that's a good play. I just like Parnelli and Royal Ship, they're the second and third choices. This horse has beat them by double-digit lengths in their last 2 starts.
Yeah.
You know, and I don't know why they would completely be able to flip the tables on him based on those races. Did they have like a bunch of trouble? Was it the first start off the bench and something like that? Not really, you know? So I tried, Chappie. I promise you I tried.
Me too. We were usually in the no chalk zone, but I think today sometimes you got to eat it if you have to. So
yeah, we'll see what's nice about playing a pick 5. Like the sequence that I thought was, you know, Defunded is probably gonna be tough. Right before that, a little bit formful, but the race before that, we've got 2 double-digit horses that are must uses for me. Right, those horses. Can we get one of those home? And that's how you get these sequences to pay.
All right, I can't wait to hear your opinion in the last, because I do have some opinions, good and bad, in the 10th race, and I'm kind of going with an unknown horse by process of elimination. A couple things. If you just watch the replays, I think Vegas Burner. If Vegas Burner runs the race 2 back, that was
my top pick.
Yeah. That's of all the horses I've watched, that would be my top pick.
Because last time out, he just was hooked wide throughout. Never had a shot. Never had a shot. Hope they get more aggressive here, because he looks like the only proven speed. Like you've got Giovazino there, and maybe 1 or 2 of these first time starters, but he's the most proven speed that we've seen, repeatedly shown speed, and he's drawn down towards the rail. So I think the lead should be his for the taking.
Yeah, me too. Here's one where we'll get into what you think on this. A horse I expected to like until I watched the replay was Acquired Class. Now, that being said, it was off of a long layoff, and the horse probably needed the race and adds blinkers. When they say tight turn, traffic, upper stretch, I don't think there was a whole lot of trouble there.
Yeah, he was more behind horses than having to necessarily get steadied and move around. Didn't have a ton of room. When he split horses late, he was a little flat. You're right.
Yeah.
I'm not in love with him. It's dependent on price for him. Like if he's 7-2, 4-1, it's probably okay to include him in some of your exotics, but I definitely wouldn't say single this horse or anything at all like that. I agree with you. Could be a little sharper, could be a little better, blinkers on, a little bit more focused. The horse to the outside is a fun one to mention, at least. Smooth Salute, because this is a full brother to Smooth Like Straight. The horse who is a grade 1 winner of the Shoemaker Mile. We've seen him in all those mile turf races for a long time. He was second in the Breeders' Cup Mile too. If you don't remember Smooth Like Straight. So Smooth Salute is a full brother to that one, and also has a dam who was a winner on the turf. So should be plenty of turf. It's just first time out, going 6.5 on this layout from way out there. This horse would have to really work out a nice trip or be something special. But at least worth mentioning that fun sibling there. The other one,
and by the way, the workout on April 16th was very nice. That is on XBTV. Smooth Salute, so you can get an idea of what this horse looks like on the track. Obviously, that's on the main track. We're transferring it over to turf, but at least it shows. Like you said, pedigree is for turf. And it shows the horse has some talent. So real quick before you get to your next one, just by process of elimination watching these, besides Vegas Burner, the sneaky one to me is the 2 O'Banion.
Absolutely.
Because of just the connections. The horse had a race. I know it was a long time ago.
And it was fine. I watched it. It was fine. Yeah. The horse had a slow start, was towards the rail, kind of shifted around a little bit, and then they had to tip out in between horses late. It wasn't bad. It was back in June. It was in Ireland, and the horse has been here now working for a while for D'Amato. Couldn't see those because they were at Losal. So,
and he doesn't. Yeah, right. You're right. We can't see it, but he doesn't necessarily have like a first string here and a second string there. It's kind of odd. I don't know how his patterns work, but it's not.
It might have been just sort of think about the horses he probably brought over to Santa Anita to start the meet. This horse wasn't ready. Right. So he probably kept some of the horses that weren't quite ready to run and weren't going to be running for a while. And now you can bring them over to run a couple times in the next 2 months, So that I don't know, but I'm just trying to handicap the trainer there. And
you're probably right.
That would make sense. He's a must use to me too. I had my top 2 in this race were 2-6 or a 2-4, excuse me. Vegas Burner and O'Banion. 6 was a probable use. I mentioned the 12. The others that were on my radar, the first time starter for Miller, the 3 Adventuresome. This horse's dam was 3 for 4, and he's a half sibling to a 6-time turf winner, a horse who was a stakes winner and was grade 3 placed as a multiple stakes winner. That's Adventuresome. And then Neon Lights, the race at Dundalk wasn't bad. It was on the synthetic. It was down on the inside. He kept looking like he was going to back up, but he just stayed. He really wasn't beaten a whole lot in that race. It wasn't bad. And he actually had a pretty solid gallop out. Not anything directly monster as far as turf is concerned. Let me ask you
something on that race. Did the horse, because usually when they come over here sometimes how did the horse break? Okay.
Yeah. He took a step slow, but he was kind of quick after that. So that could hurt though. You're right. Like but it wasn't like dwelt slow. It was just a little slow, but then was kind of up into a nice position, was kind of in striking range.
Go to the, one thing for you. This is your one piece of homework. Go back to XBTV, April 16th, that 47-1 from the gate is on there. The horse completely dwelt, but then is very fast.
Good. Then is good. So maybe is that something they can get fixed, or maybe we watch and it wouldn't be. I wouldn't talk you off of throwing this horse in a pick 4, pick 5, right? Because the price will be right. But this might be a horse who next time after a race in the gate and just getting used to the speed of things here. And with a barn that's doing really well right now and a rider who's had a fantastic meet, right?
Yeah.
Maybe like
those connections are terrific. They're 29% together, and Nap's been on fire. He's getting more stock. That's his main man, and he's no longer under the radar as much. The Steve Knapp,
not at all. No.
Yeah, and then the 3 is the one that's interesting. Obviously, any of the Peter Millers, 99% of those work at San Luis Rey. You don't have any way to watch those. You almost have to use. The only thing I thought maybe an air gate might want a little bit longer, but who knows on that. So, and the only other one, the Bolt Supremacy had a little bit of trouble last time at the start, and out of the ones in that common race, which would be Acquired Class, Bolt Supremacy, and Single Track Mine, Bolt Supremacy finished up the best of the 3.
Yep.
But I didn't love any of those 3. That's why we go back to the Miller, that maybe you just needed the race, and with the blinkers on might improve a lot.
Yeah, because I'm like, coming out of that race, the horse who I think has the best chance based on the way the race could shape up would be Vegas Burner, who we talked about. Just with the speed, when you're way out wide on that turf course, you can have a good start, and then 4 or 5 other horses to your inside are all shoving. Yeah. And then what are you supposed to do? Like, you just get caught in no man's land where you have to just take back sometimes. It's not even always the rider's fault. But now I think it's, it's like anything. When you have a race where you sort of miss the break, I always feel like the next time the connections, the jockey, the trainer are going to be even more adamant about, like, let's get out of there. Let's really show some speed.
Yep. All right. So that kind of wraps it up. I think, unfortunately for us, the most logical single happens to be Defunded, who's going to be 2 to 5 probably. But if you can get some prices along the way, it shall not matter maybe. And we might find a price in the last with O'Banion there.
If we could end with like 2-4 on some tickets, right? Get a proven speed horse that we at least get a pretty good confidence that this horse will be in the running for a lot of the race. And then we get a wild card like the 2. They'll both be decent prices. Maybe you can set yourself up that way. And even if you want to single Defunded and you close with those 2, give yourself some opportunity, in the other 2 races, especially the first 2. I think the first 2 legs are the ones where you might need a little bit of help. The first is only a 7-horse field, but like we mentioned, not the easiest in the world. And the following race, not easy either. So they're both pretty difficult to start this late pick 5.
Or maybe we use the 2 and the 4 in some sort of connection here with the Golden Hour pick 4, because then we've got a couple prices. So
absolutely,
we will do a little bit of bonus coverage real quick.
Let's do that.
Just for complete transparency. Once again, sometimes work does get in the way. I have not gotten to these 2 races, so I'm going to leave it up to Mr. Bucola here. The last 2 being the 8th and the 9th at Golden Gate. So race 8 is a mile on the turf, 12-5 claimers. What were your thoughts here?
The horse I want to mention first is the number 4, Holy Ghost. So these are 12-5 claimers. If you look at Holy Ghost's form, the last time this horse was on the turf was actually facing 25 claimers at Santa Anita. And that race, the winner of that race, came back to win their next start. The runner-up, Opry, that horse has multiple graded stakes place now. He's finished in the money in back-to-back graded stakes races. So compare the level of that race, that $25,000 claiming race, to what this 12-5 claiming race is. I mean, they could be night and day. And you've seen a horse run on the synthetic in his last few starts. Now he gets back to the turf. So I think it's a little bit interesting for Holy Ghost here. Exits a live race with 2 next out winners. And the horse that he lost to in that race, Enjoy It Straight, that horse has won 4 of the last 5 races. So that race was strong. Last time we saw him on the turf, it was strong. Before the 12-5 claiming race, the other form was against Tougher. It was all at the $20,000 and $25,000 level. So I think he's really well spotted in here. A must use for me. The number 7, I think Royster is a pretty big pace factor in here, depending on what you want to do with that one. Probably a horse to include in some of the exotics, at least underneath. I expect that this horse will probably be the one to catch. The other one to me was the 8 Chief Jackson, whose turf form is not bad. And there might be a little bit of upside on the turf for a horse who's only been on it 4 times and has run really well in 3 of them. We haven't seen this horse on the turf since back in August, and that was sprinting. But what I like is we've actually seen him run well going long recently. So it shouldn't be a problem going a little bit longer. Now we just will get to see him going longer on the turf, which last time he was sprinting. So those 3 horses that were on my radar, I might play one where I honestly single the 4 Holy Ghost. I like that horse. He needs a little bit of a setup because he's not all that fast early, but I think he fits really well in here.
Couple interesting angles, like you said, with those turf races. They're kind of hidden, and then running second to a horse who's won 4 or 5 the last time out. So, and it's 6-1. There's nothing wrong with that. All right, we move on to the very last leg to hopefully close out a very successful day. Race 9 at Golden Gate. We're going 5.5 furlongs, Gino, and some a maiden special weight, some first-time starters. Very interesting to think if you came up with anything here in the last leg.
The 5 will definitely be on my ticket. That debut race was not bad. This horse ran in spots and showed some ability, but did run into legitimate traffic. So he started to move, Magic Chrome, started to move in between horses with some serious momentum, but she really had to angle like wide out to the 5-6 path. And that sort of kind of like cost her with her momentum, just having to shift around. I think she was a little green still, but she has some ability. I really think the 5 is an interesting one to throw in to close out the golden hour. Along with the 5, the 9, Tessa. Ron Charles has always had great success with these types of horses that he ships in like this. I've had a few of them with me and my pops that we've made some good money on through the years with these horses first time in. Tessa, from just a class standpoint, I think fits pretty well in here. And then the other one for me, I guess maybe 2 more that I probably will be on my tickets, both the 4 and the 7. The 7, Stormy Rug, intriguing looking first time starter. The 4, Swall, is actually the daughter of a winning dam named Cat Dancer. Cat Dancer produced a horse named Drill, who was a grade 1 winner. Drill was a good Baffert horse early on in his career. He won the Del Mar Futurity. He was really highly touted from the very beginning, was always like supposed to be a monster. And then he was a little green and quirky in a few of his starts, but he had a couple where he put it all together and was really good. And what you know about Drill also was precocious, right? Was a grade 1 winner at 2. So if this horse came out running and showed some ability right off the bat, thinking about the bloodline, that wouldn't be shocking at all. So I gave you 4 that'll probably be on my personal pick 4 here. The prices of the 5, the 4 maybe it won't be as much of a price, and the 7, and then I think the 9 is the horse to beat, Tessa.
Well, like you said, between the pick 5 or the way we went about it, using defunded and maybe a couple prices.
And defunded starts the golden hour pick 4.
Golden hour, yeah.
Also, so you won't have to likely be going very deep in that race if you're building your tickets. So just make sure that you have a couple prices in there somewhere, right? Just give yourself the opportunity in any rate, in any of them, that you got a 10-1 or a couple of them throughout, especially if you're just going to single defunded right off the bat.
Yeah, no question. All right, Gino, thanks for the time. We will see you tomorrow morning on the Morning Line Sports Show, and we'll see everybody again next week. And then a couple weeks from now, we're just about 2 weeks away from the Kentucky Derby, which is crazy, Gino. It's coming up that quick.
Really excited. And we'll talk about all the Derby festivities then. Next week, we can focus again on Santa Anita, everything going on here, the really great racing and lots of opportunities. Don't forget about the Pick'em contest tomorrow. Totally free to enter, pick'em.santanita.com, and tune in and listen to more great analysis from some of the guests of handicappers that you have. You do a great job promoting a lot of the events coming on the weekend at Santa Anita on the radio show. So it's always a good listen in. I'm always listening in the 35 minutes or so before I jump on.
All right, buddy. Can't wait for it tomorrow. And good luck to everybody. Thanks. And I'll talk to you next week.
Good luck, everyone.